Hello everyone, welcome to this first video using iPad software to try to record the process of analysing and evaluating a text and breaking down paper 1, paper 2. I'm hoping to make a few of these videos, working through the process of analysing and evaluating, and share them with you, and hopefully it can help you understand what you have to do to make your life easier, how I would do it, and perhaps even replicating that process for yourself, and just trying to make the whole thing easier for you as well. Now, I've never used this software before, so excuse me for all the blips that it might entail. I can't comment and write like I'd like to on it, but in the future I'd like to get something that can help me do that. Okay, so just to start off, we're going to look at paper 1. This was the paper that you did in class the other day. 19th century, of course. Now, where do I start? Well, on the day of your exam, you're going to get a text. Oh, see, already messing up there. Okay, you're going to get a text that looks like this. Maybe a page and a half. I've never really seen anything longer. It will be a separate text document to all the questions which are above. Now, I'm not going to scroll up because I know what the questions are, and this process has confused a few people, so I just want to make it simple for you. You do not want to just start reading this text, okay, because you're going to waste your time. By the time you get to question 1 and 2, which are up here, lines 6 to 8 identify the phrase, and lines 1 to 8 identify 2 words. You're going to be able to do that quite quickly. But when it comes to question number 3, which is, how does the writer use language and structure, here, to show the thoughts and feelings, especially from lines 16 to 33. Well, if you haven't already highlighted those lines, sorry, excuse this. If you haven't already highlighted those lines, you've got no notes. So when it comes down to that question, you've got to read it again, and you're wasting time. Now, of course, you might work through that process, and you might get to question 3, and you think, right, okay, I am going to read lines number 16, which comes here, down to line 33, which is here, okay? So we've got this box of where language and structure would come, and you read it, and then you get to question 4. So you've just answered that one, you get to question 4, and now it's asking you to evaluate. Okay, it says, in this extract there's an attempt to create a growing sense of tension. Evaluate how successfully this is achieved. Okay, so we go back to the text, and you've made 0 notes on tension. So guess what? You've got to read it all again. And you're just wasting your time when first time round, you could have done that. Okay, it's certainly something I would do, which is the next process. And hopefully this will start to make sense. You'll start to understand it in class, the process you have to do. It becomes quite simple once you know it. Is as soon as you open up the text, you go to question 3, you indicate the lines like we've done here. We don't start reading because we want to write at the top, evaluation. Now excuse the handwriting on here because I'm doing it with my finger. Okay, eval equals, and it was tension. Wait till I get a stylus there. Okay, so it's tension. Now, as I read the whole text, I'm looking for tension. okay? When I get to lines 16 to 33, I'm no longer looking for tension because it asked me to look for thoughts and feelings. I remember that from reading it. It was language and structure for thoughts and feelings, all right? That's supposed to be an F. Probably one of the best questions you can hope for is thoughts and feelings because it's very simple when you think about it. So let me just walk you through my process, and then we'll do a second video on how I would answer it. Alright? So I've done my process, I'm ready to read. How long should I spend reading this text? Well, I'm hoping between 15 and 20 minutes. That might seem quite a long time, especially if you want more time on your creative writing. Then of course you've got to get it done a little bit quicker, but I'm just going to go for about 15 minutes today. It won't take me actually 15 minutes, so don't worry, you don't have to cancel the video, because I already kind of know what I'm looking for. And again, this is to help you understand the process that I work through and make it easier for you to understand. Okay, so I love this little tool here. Little magnifier. Okay, I can make it bigger as well, apparently. Oh, wow, look at that. I love it. I always read this bit at the top. In this extract, Miss Margaret Hale is visiting Mr. Thornton, a mill owner. I often get students to stop there and tell me what's happening, and they look at me like, what, we've just read it? Well, yeah, I do it on purpose. Because it's as simple as that. Once you know it, you understand it. I know that Miss Margaret Hale is visiting Mr. Thornton. It then says a dangerous and angry mob of poor workers marches to the mill demanding higher wages. Again, what's happening is Margaret Hale's visiting Mr. Thornton, and now I know that a dangerous and angry mob of people are coming towards them demanding higher wages. Mr. Thornton has sent for soldiers to break up the crowd. Okay, so, you know, I don't need to start guessing what's happened here. That they've had a brew, a little bit of Battenberg. One of them's going to the post office. You know, none of this stuff is happening, so I don't need to think that anything other than in this extract that two people are, you know, at risk of an angry mob who have come to demand higher wages. It really is as simple as that. Now, let's begin with tension. Why do I begin with tension? Why do I begin with evaluation? Because 16 to 33 is language and structure. Therefore, anything outside of that box, from lines 1 to 15, well, that can't be language and structure. So what does it have to be? It surely has to be question number 4. And I know what question number 4 is because I've already done the work to find out that it's tension. So I've just got to look for tension. Now, evaluation is separate to analysis. Evaluation is looking at how well something's achieved. I want to avoid saying what it shows, and I want you to try and pretend that you're the teacher. And what I mean by that is you're marking the work. It's as if someone's giving you the work and you have to mark it and say what works well here. Okay, what exactly has this person done that works so well? Let's begin. Let's get our highlighter out. And we're going to start at the start because that's a logical place to begin. And it says, had you better not go upstairs, Miss Hale? Now, does that create tension? Yes, it does, because it's the first thing that you read. It's the first thing that you read is, had you better not go upstairs? Well, you're immediately thinking, why? Why is he telling her to go upstairs? And you can do that in evaluation. You can talk about where things come in the text. Why is it the first thing we read? Why is it the last thing we read? Why does it start the way it does? Why does it end the way it does? I move on to the next paragraph. I'm keeping it very simple because for evaluation I can use the whole text. Believe it or not, lines 15 to 16 I can actually use. So I don't want to get loads and loads, make your life easier. Try and find 5 to 6 things if you want those higher marks. Of course you've got to push yourself for maybe 8 things. It's quite a lot. Margaret's lips formed a no, but he could not hear her speak for the tramp of the innumerable steps right under the very wall of the house, and the fierce growl of low, deep, angry voices that had a ferocious murmur of satisfaction in them, more dreadful than their baffled cries not many minutes before. There's definitely tension in here, there's got to be, okay? How well is it achieved, though? That's what I've got to ask myself. Well, I like this bit here. Innumerable steps. I also like the fact that you can't hear us speak. The fact that, which is an evaluative phrase, they are described as such. Okay, and I'll come to that in a second. So I've already got quite a lot. I don't want to get caught up in this. What works well to create tension here is the fact that you can't even hear us speak. That creates tension because, as the reader, you want to know what is it that's so loud that's stopping them from hearing each other. The next bit, innumerable steps, as in numerable, as in number. Okay, now something's innumerable, we're assuming here that it cannot be counted. Alright, innumerable steps. So why does that work well to create tension? Because you don't know how many people are coming. Ooh, interesting. Now, if you didn't pick up on that, the fierce growl. I bet if I show the question now, what do you associate fierce growl with? You're all going to say animals. Okay, something like a predator, like an animal. Why does that work well to create tension? Because it sounds as if they are angry. Okay, and when someone's angry, it's a better way of creating tension. Remember, I'm marking. Why is it a good thing to do? I move on, okay? Never mind, said he, thinking to encourage her. I'm very sorry you should have been entrapped into all this alarm, but it cannot last now. A few minutes more and the soldiers will be here. I think this bit here creates tension really well. Because, one, there's a sense of time with a few minutes more. And I think when you're aware of the time of things and when they happen, it's a better way of creating tension, because if it's in like an action film and a bomb's about to explode or something's about to happen and it's always counting down and the clock keeps going to the seconds on the clock, and the camera keeps going to the seconds on the clock, and will they make it, won't they make it, that creates tension because it gives you a time frame. So we're kind of left wondering what's going to happen in a few more minutes. The soldiers will be here. Why has he had to call soldiers to get rid of this crowd? That creates tension, because again, we don't know what's going to happen. Oh God, cried Margaret suddenly, there is Boucher, I know his face. Though he is livid with rage, he is fighting to get to the front. Look. Well, I'm asking myself, what works well here to create tension? I think the use of exclamation marks work really well here. Because when you use exclamation marks, they usually create either excitement, shouting, and in this case, I definitely think they work well to create tension. So I can actually say the fact that they've used 3 exclamation marks in this short bit works really well to create tension, because we've got this idea of her exclaiming. Here's another bit of tension. She knows Boucher. So again, why is Boucher so keen to get to the front? That creates tension. What are his intentions? Okay, so the fact that the writers mentioned this other character and focused in on Boucher, when, let's remember, we had innumerable steps earlier. Will it let me draw a line between these two? I think possibly. We had innumerable steps. So there was a lot of people, but now we're focusing on one person. Why is he worth focusing in on? Who is Boucher? Asked Mr. Thornton coolly, and coming close to the window to discover the man in whom Margaret took such an interest. And as soon as they saw Mr. Thornton, they set up a yell. To call it not human is nothing. It was as the demonic desire of some terrible wild beast for the food that is withheld from his ravening or ravening, not sure. That's all right. It's put an asterisk at the side of it. So I scroll to the bottom, and it means violently hunting for food. Well, what did we mention earlier? We spoke about the fierce growl. So again, I'm probably going to talk about that. The fact that... Sorry, excuse that, that's not the highlighter. The fact that he keeps referring to him as like beasts and animals creates tension, because it's like they're hunting him, and we don't know if he's going to get away or if they're going to get him. Even he drew back for a moment, dismayed at the intensity of hatred he provoked. Even he drew back for a moment. Maybe you're starting to realise what's happened here. Now, if you didn't get this as you're reading, that's all right, because we've almost got too many things. Don't forget, I've got this whole text to look through. So if you only find 3 things in, from lines 1 to 15, that's totally okay. I've hit my force field, as I call it. I've now hit line 15. I'll change this to red to indicate it, okay? Line 16, sorry. Now I remember something about line 16 to 33. Can I draw a box around it? Of course, something like this. This is what I'd like you to do on the day. Okay, not the greatest box you'll ever see. Now this is not evaluation, this is language and structure. I remember checking earlier, I've made my life easier, as opposed to the person who didn't make their life easier. Did they remember its language and structure and thoughts and feelings? Well, we do, because we made a little note, okay? How many things am I looking for? 4 to 5. If you're wanting 6 out of 6, you've got to make your way through all of these lines. That's what I can't stress that enough, okay? I'm not sure if it's going to let me do this properly if I move this over here. No, I didn't think it would. Alright, but all these lines here, I should be working through. Sometimes I do this on my text. Let's do it in blue. I do this. It helps me remember to work through the beginning, the middle, and the end of the lines given. This is if you want 6 out of 6 marks, 5 out of 6. Your answer has to deal with all the lines given. If it fails to, you're going to fail to get the marks, because your answer's almost incomplete. If you were telling me about a film that you'd read, you can't read a film, sorry. Yeah, a film you'd watched, and you were analysing that film, and you were talking about that film, you wouldn't just tell me about the beginning and the middle and leave out the end, because I wouldn't get a full understanding of what it's about. And, the same goes for a text with question 3. Why would you not talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end? Alright, a few of my students, when marking the mocks, kind of stopped at line 30. Some people even started at line 21, 22. I'm not sure why you would do that. No. Let's start highlighting some things. Language and structure, okay. My skills have changed. Evaluation was not really what it shows, it's how well it's achieved. Well, I'm now looking if I can stick it here at the side, if it lets me. Oh. It's disappeared. Apologies. Okay, we're back on. Technical error. What it shows. What does it show? Right, something about thoughts and feelings. Well, there's 2 people in this extract. I know that because I read the bit at the start. I read the top bit. I know I've got Margaret Hale and Mr. Thornton. Thoughts and feelings. It's the best question you could get, in my opinion, because all you have to do is find out what they think and what they feel. I bet when I say it like that, it sounds simple. Let's see how it starts. Alright, let's get the highlighter out. Let them yell, said he. In 5 more minutes. Keep up your courage for 5 more minutes, Miss Hale. Straight away, I've got structure. You know, if you don't comment on language and structure, you get capped at 2 marks. I've seen some great answers, but all about language or all about structure. I've had to cap people. You know, let them yell. Exclamative there. Okay, not a fan of that. Let's go with this here. Okay, exclamative there. Let them yell. So what does that show about this guy? That's what I'm asking myself. What's the thoughts and feelings? Now remember, I can't comment at the side, but if you are watching, you can get a piece of paper and write this down. Let them yell. Exclamation mark. Well, for me it's as simple as the fact that it shows that he's a bit angry. Let them yell, said he. He's a bit angry, so we're calling this the exclamative, the exclamatory. And in my response, I'll put something like, when the writer states, let them yell, the use of the exclamative or exclamatory sentence indicates to the reader that he is angry. And again, we'll come to it in part 2. I don't like to just say one thing. I don't like to say one thing about the language and structure I've identified. So I'd probably say he's angry and perhaps agitated. In 5 more minutes, keep up your courage in 5 more minutes. So, you know, the use of repetition indicates here that he's a bit, I don't know, is he a bit of a coward because he wants someone else to resolve the situation? Now, she responds with, don't be afraid for me, she said hastily, but what in 5 minutes? Can you do nothing to soothe these poor creatures? It is awful to see them. It's awful to see them, she says. So, don't be afraid for me. Don't be afraid for me. If you're writing this down, that would be an imperative. An imperative is a command or order. It's showing that she doesn't want him to be afraid for her because she cares about these people. How do I know? She asks the interrogative question. Can you do nothing to soothe these poor creatures? The fact that she uses this adjective here shows to me her thoughts and feelings. Don't forget that down here. That's supposed to be an F. That she cares. Many people read creatures as a negative thing. It's not. She cares for them. She even says it's awful to see them. Again, the word awful indicates to me that she cares. Then he says, the soldiers will be here directly, and that will bring them to reason. So if I'm looking for 6 out of 6, I'm trying to work through all the lines here. But I'm going to move on to the next bit. To reason, said Margaret quickly. What kind of reason? So, again, she's getting a little bit agitated. How do I know? The same exclamative here, look. Interrogatives. She's asking a lot of questions. So what does that show when someone asks questions? Well, of course they want answers. Is she getting annoyed? Is she scared? Is she anxious? He says the only reason that does with men that make themselves into wild beasts, by heaven they've turned to the mill door. I'm hoping you're picking up a trend here. It's animalistic. Oh, we don't like that. Undo that, thank you, kindly. Animalistic. Describing people as wild beasts. Language and structure, I'm always looking for this word. Well, these things. This is awful writing. Connotations. What are the connotations of wild beasts? Well, I'll leave that one to you. By heaven, they've turned to the mill door. Oh, what's he using again? Look at this, eh? Are we seeing a correlation with this guy's attitude? I think so. He's definitely getting uptight. Mr. Thornton, said Margaret, shaking all over with her passion, go down this instant if you are not a coward. Go down and face them like a man. Speak to your workmen as if they were human beings. Speak to them kindly. Don't let the soldiers come in and cut down poor creatures who were driven mad. I see one there who is. If you have any courage or noble quality in you, go out and speak to them, man to man. I don't even think you need me to explain that. She ain't happy. Alright, how do I know she's not happy? Well, we've got more imperative language. Okay. Imperative language commands orders. She tells him what to do. She's annoyed now. Okay. The difference between this bit and that bit there. She started off by saying, can you do nothing? What do you mean by reason? And now she's getting really annoyed. You know what? Go down. She's telling him what to do. She says face them like a man, similar. Okay? She feels like he's not treating them with respect. Speak to your workmen as if they were human beings. Speak to them kindly. The adverb kindly. Her language is very positive. Okay? Positive language. Ignore the writing. And all I've done here, guys, very simple, is I've just looked at the thoughts and the feelings of these people. I've only done what the question is asking me to do. He turned and looked at her while he spoke, and a dark cloud came over his face while he listened. Right, well, why does a dark cloud come over his face? Well, first of all, it's a metaphor. A dark cloud can't really come over his face. Does anyone know what that means if you have a dark cloud come over your face? Well, hopefully you got the same answer. He's angry. Okay, so again, thoughts and feelings, very simple when you break it up like this. He's angry. He set his teeth as he heard her words. Ooh, he doesn't sound happy. And now look how I've got towards the bottom of the lines, because it's 16 to 33. I will go. Ooh, that simple sentence. I will go, he says it. He says it very bluntly. The bluntness of the sentence reflects the bluntness of his feelings. Perhaps I may ask you to accompany me downstairs and bar the door behind me. My mother and sister will need that protection. And then she says, oh, Mr. Thornton, I don't know, I may be wrong, only... And it cuts off. You've got to notice how characters change in the extract. I always say to people, how does it start versus how it ends? She's now gone from, shall we say, up here, if we can indicate it with the highlighter. She's a little bit unsure. She then goes to, in here, being kind of commanding, taking over. And then now when he decides to go, hold on a minute, she's changed her mind again. So her thoughts and feelings have changed, alright? Let's have a look here. Look how it's cut off. Her speech is cut off. Okay, she might be wrong. There's the use of hyphens here. Hopefully when I put it like that, you understand it's a little bit simpler. Just by breaking it down. I have asked myself, language and structure, thoughts and feelings. Well, what does he think? What does she think? Notice how slowly I read the text. I've noticed that he's annoyed. Then she's uncertain. She actually cares for him. He doesn't care for him. He's bringing out some soldiers to deal with him. Then he starts calling them wild beasts, so that really shows he doesn't care for him. Then she's getting so angry, she's shaking with passion, and she's telling him what to do because she can't deal with the situation anymore. Then he turns angry, not at the crowd, but then at her. And then he says, I'll go down, and then she changes her mind again, reflecting uncertainty. Now, if you don't end up getting that much, that's okay, because even if you only get 4 things from those lines available, and you work through it in a linear fashion, and you still say what it shows, you're going to be okay. Let's carry on, and we'll look to finish this extract. Now, the remaining bit is outside of the lines, Okay? The outside of the lines given, which was 16 to 33 for language and structure. Therefore, what skill do I go back to? It's got to be evaluation. And what was evaluation asking me to look for? It was asking me to look for tension. So I just go back to tension. But he was gone. He was downstairs in the hall. He had unbarred the front door. All she could do was to follow him quickly and fasten it behind him, and clamber up the stairs again with a sick heart and dizzy head. Tension. He's unbarred the front door. So what works well about this bit? Well, what could happen to him? He might be at risk now of getting hurt. It's the fact that she follows him quickly. Surely, when things happen quickly, that's a better way of creating tension. Of course, we can build tension by doing things slowly, but that's why most action films work well, because they happen so quick, it creates that tension. And now she's got a sick heart and a dizzy head. So what's going to happen to her? Again, she took her place by the farthest window. He was on the steps below, and she saw that by the direction of 1,000 angry eyes, but she could neither see nor hear anything save the savage satisfaction of the rolling angry murmur. She could neither see nor hear anything. Does that create tension? It does. Why? Because she doesn't know what's happening. What works well here is the fact that the writers used sensory language. Okay? We want to avoid language and structure, really, so I would call that language that appeals to the senses. That's a good way of creating tension. The fact that the writers use what she can hear and see, and the fact that she can't hear or see anything works well to create tension, because she doesn't know, again, what's happening. But there was a satisfaction from the crowd. She threw the window open. Many in the crowd were men, boys, cruel and thoughtless. Cruel because they were thoughtless. And some were men gaunt as wolves and mad for prey. Come on, guys, I don't need to explain this bit to you again. More animalistic imagery. Why does it create tension? Because it's almost like they are predators. It even says here, prey. We don't know what's going to happen to him. We don't know what's going on out there. She knew how it was. They were like Boucher, with starving children at home, relying on ultimate success in their efforts to get higher wages, and enraged beyond measure at discovering that men were to be brought in to rob their little ones of bread. Margaret knew it all. She read it in Boucher's face. Forlornly, desperate, and livid with rage. If Mr. Thornton would but say something to them, let them hear his voice only, it seemed as if it would be better than this wild beating and raging against the stony silence. Alright? Tension. I'm thinking how it ends. It ends with Boucher again. The fact that this guy is focused on. I've made my way now through the entire text. I've got something for evaluation up here, language and structure here, and back down to evaluation. Now, for evaluation, you really want to be using these lines. This confuses people. They just said, hold on a minute, you just said I can use that for language and structure, so why would I use it for evaluation? Well, you've got to, because you've got to use the whole text for evaluation, because it doesn't indicate lines. Let's have a look at the question. So here they've said 16 to 33, but here it just says in this extract there's an attempt to create a growing sense of tension. A growing sense, which is interesting. How does it develop? So I use the entire text. Now, what do I say about this bit? Well, I only really need to say one thing for tension here. And if you're looking for the higher marks, then this is the kind of thinking, that kind of line you've got to be going down. Notice how the first section is tension, but outside. Alright, let's change the colour of this, just so you can see it. All here, that is tension, but the tension is to do with what's going on outside. If you were to look at the tension in this part. Don't look at it as language and structure. Look at it, is there tension here? Of course there is. There's tension between the two people. Okay, and then at the end, it's now focusing on tension to do with specific people who have children at home. Okay, and how tense it is for them by not having enough money to feed them. So if I was evaluating it, I would say the fact that it starts off with tension outside the house works well, because you get one aspect of tension from lots of people. Then as the text develops, the tension now becomes internal. That means inside. So I have external up here, internal here. There's a tension between two people. Then the tension goes back outside, back to external. So why does that work well to create a growing sense of tension? It's because I don't just get one aspect of tension. I get many aspects of it. And I often ask you to do that. I call it 3D thinking. It's not just thinking about the question in question 4 as one-dimensional, two-dimensional. It's thinking about it three-dimensionally. So join me now in the next video for how I would actually answer this, what I would write, and just hopefully this video has just made things a little bit easier for you. The next time you do a mock, the next time you do some homework, or any extract, 19th century extract in class, you'll follow this thought process, and let's just remove that psychological expectation of what you think you should be getting as opposed to what you actually put. You don't need to put loads. You do not need to put loads and loads. Okay? Hopefully that's been helpful to you. If you'd like more of these videos, let me know. And sorry if it's gone on a little bit and the writing's a bit hard to read. I will work on that in the future. Hopefully we can edit it a little bit. And I need to stop saying the word hopefully and get a bit better vocab. I'll see you next time.